Start your journey and further your education with Moat Business College. Not sure what direction to take? Need more time before going on to higher education or a career change? With up to 20 QQI Level 5 and 6 courses to choose from, we've got the course for you. Find out more and apply now at moatbusinesscollege.com.
Broadcasting live from the little town of Clara, County Offaly, it's What's the Story with Lloyd Bracken. Get in touch today through all our social channels and have your say. Oh, and thanks for listening. Now it's over to you, Lloyd. What's the story?
Hi everyone, very welcome back. Hope you had a great week. This is What's the Story with myself, Lloyd Bracken. Thank you very much to John Lowe last week on a very entertaining podcast. I hear he's actually heading to Hollywood this morning for a movie, so I just hope Hollywood is ready for the J-Lo show, as he calls it himself. Don't forget, you can stream the older podcasts back on all the streaming platforms and on the social media outlets. Also, huge thanks to Moat Business College this week for coming on board with this podcast. You can find out more information on Moat Business College website or on Facebook. I actually got a great start there myself many moons ago. So right, enough about me, everyone. This is episode 12. My next guest in the hot seat is a Galway native, but has spent most of her working life, 42 years in fact, in Clara, and is the principal of the girls' school in town. Not only a huge achievement with 42 years service in one school, she was instrumental in the start-up of success of the hugely popular Harp and Shamrock Band, former recipient of the Clara Person of the Year, and the current chairperson of Tullamore Ladies Football, described by many as the busiest person they know. It's a pleasure to introduce to you Nora Kavanagh. What's the story?
Hi, Lloyd.
I'm very good. How are you, Nora?
I'm getting nervous now that I'm starting, but look, I'll settle it. And I'm so delighted you paid Saw Doctors, because what you probably don't realise is I grew up on the N17.
There you go now. Isn't that one of you now?
And I spent my secondary school years staring in over the wall of the Christian Brothers School.
The stone walls.
From the Mercy Convent.
But there you go, that's amazing.
The stone walls as well, yeah.
Very good.
And when we went to Shannon to send all our relations to the States, we turned left at Clare Galway. So
Imagine.
I just feel
so that song has a big
huge
part.
resonance here for me. Yeah.
Great song too. Mm-hmm. We had a Ballycumber woman on the show a few weeks ago, Phyllis Price.
Oh, Phyllis, yes.
So now a Galway woman. So we've officially gone national here on What's the Story.
International if John hits Hollywood very
International
soon.
is right, yeah. And my wife's a Galway woman, so we'll be nice to you now tonight. Nora, before we get to your time in Offaly, tell us more about Nora Heenahan first.
Well, as I said, I grew up on the Galway-Tuam Road. We always would describe it as about 10 miles from Galway and 8 from Tuam, or maybe I've got my mileage wrong there. Out in the country, farm, 7 in my family, 3 sisters, 3 brothers, 7 of us in total. Very normal upbringing, lots of fighting, lots of get on with it. You know, life is tough, you just do your best. That was it. We were lucky we had the opportunities way back. You were talking about the mid-70s, late 60s, early 70s. Our parents believed in education. They believed in making sure that we went to secondary school, and that if they could afford the opportunity to send us to college, we went. There was no pressure. We just knew from them that they wanted us to achieve. Right. So that, to me, was a big factor in growing up for me. We just knew what they wanted us to do. So
that was back in Annadown you're from, is that right?
Yeah, I grew up on the borders of Annadown and Corrafin. The Galway-Tuam Road divides the 2 parishes. And when I mention Corrafin, I have to mention Kathleen Egan, former principal of the boys' school, Lord of Mercy and Kathleen. Fabulous family friend, grew up together. If it possibly wasn't for Kathleen and her sister Margaret, I might never have found my way to Clara.
Right.
Because I qualified the year of the postal strike in 1979. You're probably too young to remember that.
A little bit.
We had to physically hand in our application. So I remember I was told there's a job coming up in Clara because Margaret Allen has accepted a job. Margaret Cullen accepted a job in Tullamore. So I dropped in my application.
Brilliant. So what was school like for you then back when you were growing up? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I was in a 3-teacher school, about a quarter of a mile walk from our house. I can't say I didn't enjoy it. I have very fond memories. I remember we had the same 3 teachers all through my primary school. I would remember great fondness. I think maybe I would have annoyed a few of the teachers. I was a bit giddy, so I would always understand that in children.
Are you listening, students out there? Nora was giddy.
Yeah, I was giddy. Yeah, I think I still am. I think that's what gives me the energy to keep going. I like to be active. I like to be busy all the time. So I have very happy memories of primary school.
Was your aspiration always to be a teacher, or did you want to do something else?
Interestingly enough, no, initially. When I went to secondary school and had my first taste of a bit of career guidance, I remember saying to the career guidance teacher I wanted to be a bangarda. It's more politically correct to say Garda now. Right. Her comment was, it's probably not a career for a girl. So it didn't change my mind, but for some reason, sometime in the 5 years I was in secondary school, I decided I'd like to try teaching. I don't ever remember it being a career I really wanted to do. Like that, you got the marks. You were, as they got the callist, was then to training, and I went to Mary Immaculate College in 1976.
What was that like, Nora?
A bit like a convent school at the time. It was not like college then. We were very well under the rule of the thumb of the nuns. Great training. It had a very good reputation, and it
still has.
To me. Still has, and will stand to me. Did stand to me all through my
So
years.
42 years later, that must be some record in one school, Nora, is it?
I heard someplace recently that I'm in a less than 1% category of somebody who started their career and spent their entire time in one place.
I hate to put this to you, but you're actually teaching for 2 years before I was born.
I'm probably teaching for longer than an awful lot of people were born in Clara at this stage.
So take me back. Do you remember arriving your first day in Clara School? Driving in your little cream Renault, was it?
No, I was walking at that stage. I hadn't got my first paycheck, Lloyd. No. I arrived in Clara on the Sunday night because it was actually the Sunday of an All-Ireland final. I was trying to remember. I know Galway had to be playing, but 1979, I should remember who they played, but I had bigger things in my head because I was starting the next morning. And we moved into Richie Rex's flats. You had Rafina here a few weeks ago. I shared a flat with Mary Silk, who started. We trained, we met in college. We decided she got her job in the boys' school, I got my job in the girls, and we found the flat together and we moved in. And the next morning, Mary and I had a memory of this on Facebook just a few weeks ago. We walked to school together, and Kathleen Egan took the two of us. And that's in my mind. That will stay there forever, that first day into school.
That's lovely, yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you ever think back then, like staying in Richie Rex's flat, the little walk up to school, at 42 years later, you'd be now principal of that school. Was that an ambition?
No. I might be one of these people, I don't plan too far ahead. I didn't think that way. But when the opportunity came and I was in a good place for it, I realised, I'm going for this. Yeah. Because I always believe, I've heard maybe, sometimes you can't plan for what happens. You can only work in the moment, work as hard as you can, do what you can, and then the next step will come. And I think that's probably the way I've always been. I just do my best. Was
there nerves the night before?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I remember Margaret Allen, Kathleen's sister at the time, had taught the class that I was having, and she sent me handwritten notes. I have those memories. I can still almost read those notes. She sent me notes about the class.
Yeah. Do you remember anybody in your first class?
I remember most of them, all of them, yeah. And I'm not going to start naming names.
No, absolutely not.
But remember, there were big classes then. We had 37 and 38. I mean, you remember walking into the school and you're standing in front of the children and you're saying to yourself, oh my God, where am I going to start? And they're looking at you and they think you know everything and you feel as if you know nothing. But it was a fantastic experience. I've never looked back. I've never regretted a day, and I think every day I've walked into the school has been different. I've enjoyed it. And it's been a new challenge.
What was the school like back then compared to what it is like now?
Well, I suppose very different. It was half and half. There were 4 or 5 nuns. We had 8 teachers, 8 classes, 4 or 5 nuns, 3 lay teachers. Probably stricter at the time. It was a different era. I'd like to think now that the children are very, very happy coming to school. I'm not saying they didn't then. We inherited fantastic school. Great education system from the nuns. They had put huge work and time into it. When I became principal in 92, I inherited a really, really good school, well established, well looked after. And I suppose I've always had that at the back of my mind, that when my time comes to hand it on, that I want to hand it on in the same way.
Right.
Maybe a bit better.
I was going to ask you that when you became principal. Was that a big transition from teacher to principal, or were you acting into that role for a while?
No, I wasn't. I suppose now we have what we call middle management teams in schools. We didn't have it then. You have principal and vice principal, and you might have had one post. But I was down the pecking order a bit. Hadn't thought about it as such. Would have liked maybe a little bit more responsibility. And when it came up, it came all of a sudden. I was off on maternity leave, having had my first daughter, Clara, and I got the phone call to say, there's a position available, will you apply? And I didn't hesitate, to be honest. I said, no, I had to take the jump. It was going to be from here to there. But
where did the influence come for your daughter Clara's name?
As somebody said, just as well Dave and I didn't meet in Newtown, Mount Kennedy. But
was there any Noras in the school since you were there?
Yeah, a few. Yeah, there have been a few. No, but nobody in the last few years now. 2, I think, in my time.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Nora, just what's it like to run a school now in 2020? I know very different times and all that, but is there a lot of fundraising to go with that?
Well, I would say finance has improved now in the last 8 to 10 years. We always have to do a bit of fundraising for extras because we're constantly doing new things. We're constantly trying to keep ahead, trying to stay ahead all the time. Literacy is a huge thing in the school. We try and keep lots and lots of supplies of support materials for the children. IT, you never have enough money in a school for what you want to do. Right. Our Parents Association are excellent. They're always there in the background. I suppose, Lloyd, the one thing I would say, I said about, I'm afraid about not naming people. I'm not going to name people, but the one thing I will say about Clara, and everybody says this about Clara, the support from the town is phenomenal. It's the beauty of being in a town that's small enough to know everybody and big enough to hide away if you want to for a while. But the support from parents in the school has been absolutely phenomenal over the years, and it's still the same. I've often been a bit worried about finance in the last number of years, but I've only ever just had to say it and come up trumps, yeah.
So you said you inherited a good school, a well-run school, and we talked about the difference in the school as it was then to now. What are the students like? What's the difference in the students? Have they more opportunities now, or is technology a problem?
You have to, all of these things they're not problems, they're how you use them. Everything is innate. I mean, the basic raw material is the person, the child. And everything else is a support to how they use it. Okay. You can blame technology, but as we all know, technology is run by humans.
That's it.
Yeah.
Look what we're doing now. We're surrounded by...
Yeah, absolutely, and we still have to talk. So children, by and large, haven't changed. I'd like to think they've become more confident. You know, we had the old idea of children should be seen and not heard was part of when I started first. But now I think we encourage children to be positive, to be respectful, but we need them to voice their opinions, and we like them to tell us how they're feeling and what they want out of life, and we have to try and facilitate that.
I find personally myself and my own kids are a lot more confident than I was when I was their age. You know, I was kind of like a baby almost. Now they're obviously 6 and 7, but they're confident in their conversation
you want them
skills.
Yeah, absolutely. You want them to be that way. You don't want them. You want them to be able to stand up for themselves. You want them to know what they want in life, and you want them to have the confidence to go for it. That would be one of the things we would promote highly in the school. Children who are self-assured, self-confident, and know what they want to achieve.
Talk to me about a subject that's close to both our hearts in a way, about the major changes schools have made in general with regards to supporting children with additional needs. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm glad you used that word additional, Lloyd, because if there was anything I'd change in the Department of Education, it's the title that we give to children who need extra support in primary schools. That has changed hugely since I started to teach. I said in part of my interview that children were seen and not heard. There was also the thing where the teacher taught one group of children with very little variance. This was years ago, very little variance in what happened within the class. But now, I'm really glad to say that I see teachers are teaching individually to children. We don't expect the children to change to suit us. We have to adapt our methods in order to take on what the supports the children need. And in particular in Clara, I'm very proud to say that both schools would have a very strong record in supporting our children with any extra needs they would have. And I'm not just talking, I'm talking physical, emotional, social. It's all needs that the children have. We have 2 exceptionally good teams of special education teachers. That's what they're called. In St. Francis Boys School, they have 3 classrooms that support the boys who have needs on the autistic spectrum, and we have 2 classrooms that support the girls. And they're working very well, and the teams of staff are working really well to ensure that the children in our care fulfil their potential. Our mission statement says that very clearly, that the children fulfil their potential, not the potential of anybody else in the school, that you haven't somebody looking up the road and saying, well, Mary achieved this and I want you to achieve that. When our children are leaving us, I like to think that they have achieved their full potential.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, I suppose we have first-hand experience with the the autistic unit down in the boys' school, and it's absolutely fantastic.
That's right.
The teachers, the needs, the
support
everything
they
has been
offer.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like.
And what I think is a lovely part of it is that while the classrooms or the classes are there to support the children, a lot of the focus is on integration and inclusion of the children. With the children, we do two types of inclusion. We do inclusion into the classroom, and we do what's known as reverse inclusion, where sometimes children from the AS classes are a bit overwhelmed by what's happening in the mainstream. So we do the reverse inclusion, where we bring the children from the classes into the AS classes, so that they can get used to having friends around and get used to sharing and all of that. So there's an awful lot happening maybe that people wouldn't be aware of, but it's an area of education I'd be very happy with.
And as you said, Clara is now at the forefront of special education.
Yeah. We both have two teams of 6 to 8 teachers who look at all that area of additional needs in children.
It's a credit to the town, and it's credit to the schools.
Yeah, it's
great
that we were given the opportunity, and the department had the foresight maybe and the planning to do it.
Very good. It's a good ethos. Nora, in all your 42 years in the school, is this the most challenging one so far?
The most interesting, definitely. There have been big challenges over the years, but coming back and knowing that if you don't get it right, that things could be serious for somebody. We spent a lot of work and time over the last few months getting the school ready for the children.
Tell us about some of that, the restriction or the measures you had to put in place.
The measures are very simple. Way back, we got advice. We have a very good advisor. I suppose maybe I'll mention Mark McKeown. He's a member of our Board of Management. Okay. And when we realised that we were facing a pandemic, Mark came in and advised us what we should do. This was way back in June, before we got any advice. And everything Mark said, we implemented. And it wasn't that different to what the department said when they sent us out the guidelines. So that gave us a lot of confidence.
You were a bit quicker off the mark to other schools?
We were well ready, yeah. And it was just, we have been nervous, we've been anxious. We had a plan in place, we sent it out to the parents. We worked hard on getting it right, trying to instill confidence in everybody that we're going to do our best. And at the same time, we can't give 100% guarantee because we don't know.
Does the girls' school liaise with the boys' school at all?
Yeah, totally, we do, yeah. We have spent a lot of time this summer working together. We're dealing with the same families.
Yeah. What's your thought on a mixed school in Clara?
I think it will come down the road. I think if parents want it, it can happen. We're looking at 2 very good schools as it is. I believe there's going to be a big development coming down the tracks. Really interesting to see how that works. I think it is something that's for the future. I won't be advocating it in my time, but I am sure it's something that, it's not that I wouldn't advocate it. I think a mixed education is good for both sexes. So I think it's only a matter of time.
Nora, we have a little message here from a friend of yours and school secretary, Olive Brennan. Have a little listen to this.
When I started working in the school, Nora was on maternity leave. That was 24 years ago now. I don't want to jinx it, but we never fell out in all that time. Nora is not just a boss, but has been a great friend in all aspects of life, often the first port of call for both good and bad occasions. I've no doubt this year has been a very challenging year as a principal, but Nora has never one to shy away from a challenge. She's once again stepped up to the mark. I'm sure I speak for a lot of people when I say Nora has contributed so much to the town of Clara, not just in education, but in everything. She'd probably kill me for this, Lloyd, but at my 50th birthday party a couple of years ago, Nora decided she'd sing The Little Town of Clara for the night that was in it. Now, it was the end of the night, but let's just say she had the first verse on repeat. But I forgive you, Nora. A great friend, life and soul at the party, and the busiest person I know. Eventually, when the day comes that Nora retires, Scoil Bhride and Clara will have lost a fantastic role model.
Oh, it's nice words there from Olive Brennan.
Extremely generous, Olive, thank you.
Check is in the post. I hope you've learned the words to the streets of Clara Town by now.
The little town of Clara or the streets of Clara Town?
Okay, well
I actually never learned the streets of Clara Town, but I certainly know the first verse of the little town of Clara, as most people do. Yeah.
Is there anything in your years in the school that stands out to you? Any big occasions that you'd like to look back on?
We've had fantastic. I mean, this is the one thing I would say about Clara. I mean, so many people outside would often say, what happens in Clara? In my lifetime in Clara, it has been absolutely fantastic. I mean, we only think most recently we have Shane coming home with the claret jug. We had our visiting Taoiseach, our own homegrown Taoiseach. You know, there were 2 huge days in the town, And a number of years ago in our school, we won a digital school, a national award for it being a digital school of distinction, way back when schools were only really getting into IT. Sandra, our deputy at the time, and we decided we'll go for this award and see how it works out. First year we didn't get it, but we knew what we had to do to achieve it in year 2. And that year 2 coincided with Brian Cowan being Taoiseach. And we had a fantastic day in the school.
Like when you look at them 2 big days for Clara, there's most towns wouldn't have any one of them days.
No. And I remember the atmosphere in the green field last year when Shane arrived. There was nothing to surpass that day. The sunshine, the crowds. It was a fabulous day.
Was the claret jug ever brought to Scoil Bhride?
Yes, Brendan brought the claret jug. Brendan, Shane's dad, brought the claret jug to us last Christmas, just before Christmas last year. It was very exciting to have such a phenomenal piece, such a world-renowned piece in our school for that length of time.
Very good.
It was very exciting, yeah.
Nora, is there any advice you'd give younger students now going on, maybe thinking of going into teaching?
Well, the first bit of advice I would say is you have to want to do it. You know, there may be the thought out there that it's an easy job and that it's 9 to 3 and you're home and the holidays. And obviously, sometimes I say jokingly that the best thing about the holiday, about the career is June, July and August. But for people who want to do the job, who are thinking about it, you have to ask yourself, do I want to do it? And do I like being around children? Because if you don't, my advice would be don't think about it, because it's a very rewarding career. I found it extremely rewarding. I've enjoyed every minute of it. But you have to want to do it and you have to want to go in that door every day.
You seem to have still a good buzz about it, Nora.
Yeah, I love what I do. I always have.
It's lovely to say that, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I have fantastic memories, great memories of so many things I've done over the years, through the school, through the town. I would honestly say that Clara made me. Right. I came here I had a lot of interests. Every single one of those was fulfilled when I came here. Brilliant. Between music, sport, drama, being involved with people. You know, I grew up in that type of life and I'm so glad that I was able to extend it all into.
And we have to say, Nora, a lot of people agree with me, you still look the same, I think. No, you haven't aged today. What's the
It's
secret?
all the Botox. Actually, now that you say that, I have a 21-year-old son and he doesn't put a tooth in saying things. And we were driving along the car last week and he said to me, you know, Mum, he said, you're very lucky. I know other women of your age and they don't look half as good as you do. What's the secret? My dad both my parents have very good skin.
Very good. So you're lucky then, good genes.
I have good genes, from that point of view.
And brains, of course, to help.
Well, I'm not too sure about the brains, but the willingness to work, I think, is a huge factor. You have to be prepared to put in the graft. You have to be prepared to start today and be happy with what you did today. I've always found that when I close my eyes at night, if I'm happy with what I've done today, I'll start again tomorrow.
And you're a bit of a night owl, Nora.
Always have been. When I came to Clara in 1979, 4 of us moved into a house.
Tell us who that 4 was.
Yeah, there was Mary Silk, because Mary was teaching in the boys' school, and Aisling Grogan, then Aisling Hackett, and another teacher called Dolores. She was O'Connell. She married and became Dolores O'Connell. She was Dolores Farrell. And we lived in Chapel Hill for a number of years. And they were always giving out to me because I was always out and the girls were in bed and I'd be coming home, or they'd be knocking on the door and it'd be somebody from the GA or from something else. And I was always at something. And even I actually work very well if I need to do something and something rolling around in my head. If I get into bed and I can't, sleep, I will get up and I'll do it. And then I'll be able to sleep. I've always been that way.
Of course, Kathleen Egan set the pace coming to Clara first, didn't she?
Yes, she did, yeah. Kathleen was the first female teacher in St. Francis Boys' School. I remember that. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but it was such a tragedy that she was taken away.
I know we mentioned Kathleen briefly, but from myself, she was the principal in the St. Francis. She was a very good friend to all of us. She helped us out with the band years ago at Church Mice, and she was a good influence to Manny and to me.
Huge influence, and
very,
such a great
very
person.
greatly missed. Still.
I still to this day such a loss to Clara and to her family.
Yeah. So, Nora, what was the big draw to Clara for all these teachers coming from Galway?
I actually don't know that. We've never managed to figure that one out. I think really there was a belief maybe
was it the musicians? Or?
I don't know what it was. I think there was a belief that if you came from the West, you came from good stock, hard-working stock. And grain of truth in that too.
Aisling Hackett gave me a little bit of gossip today.
Oh, did she?
She did. She asked me to ask you about the big snow in 1981. You headed off to Galway for a Kyoto session in a yellow Renault 4 So you have to tell me about that.
Well, there were a number of years there that I was involved in the traditional music scene, and I just loved music and anything.
Of course, you're a multi-instrumentalist, aren't you?
Well, I was. I don't play as much as I did, but I don't play at all now, to be honest with you. But when I came, I'd been playing a lot of music. But she was always giving out to me. I was always out and about, and there was a bad snow one weekend, and I knew there was a session on in Galway, and two of my friends in Galway wanted me to go down, so I sat into the car, took part in the session, and stayed for a few hours with my friend, and got up very early the next morning and drove back in the frost. And survived it all.
You're lucky that car can't talk, is it?
The Renault 4 was my friend, and one of the things I remember about I always say, being involved with Scor, I had two seasons. I had the early years, the 80s, with the younger girls, and then I had the later years with the older ballad group. And the younger girls still talk about the Renault 4. Yeah. They loved it.
Had Siobhan Kelly actually telling me that she was changing gears in the front because there was two guitars.
Now Siobhan. There was a gear stick, and there was two in the front and three in the back and a few guitars, so Brilliant. I had to have two in the front.
Brilliant. We'll get on to the ballad group in a few minutes, but I suppose one of your greatest legacies too, Clara, is the Harp and Shamrock Band. Tell me how that came to fruition.
Well, the fact that I was interested in traditional music, I started to teach. At that stage, you finish at 3 o'clock in the evening. I wanted to be doing something. Now, I didn't finish my work. There was always loads of work to do. But I always wanted to do something with music. So I decided, here goes, I'll start teaching the guitar. And then I moved on to the tin whistle and the accordion. And I tried a few other, anything anybody wanted, I tried. Now, I wouldn't have been that good on strings. I don't think I even might have helped one or two people start up on strings, but I wouldn't have been able to. But there was a Coltis branch in town at the time, and I used to play a little bit. There were sessions in Dolan's, and I used to... took me a while to pluck up the courage to walk in on my own with the accordion in my hand, but eventually I did. Then we used to have some very good Monday nights there. And after, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years, Tommy Dolan said to me, he produced one night in the pub a beautiful banner, and he was saying to me, maybe we would copy this, or maybe we could have a band. So that was it. I was teaching the music, the tin whistle, accordions. We got a drummer.
What was on this banner, Nora?
Can't actually remember now with the wording, but I remember it being a beautiful green and gold banner. So I'm sure it was something traditional or whatever, but I can't even remember the gold writing now. I can see the writing, but I can't remember what it was on it. But I remember remarking on it and thinking that would be a nice one to copy. Definitely get harps and shamrocks on it. So that's maybe, I think, where the name for the Harp and Shamrock Band came from. He suggested that we try, and with a bit of help from him and Maura Maher, Lord of Mercy and Maura, we started to do a bit of fundraising, and we joined up with Tubber, year 1. Then we found Michael Reynolds from the barracks in Athlone. Michael came in to do all the marching and all the rhythm, the drumming, all of that, and we were a great combination for a good few years.
Brilliant, yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, you did a lot of travelling as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. That to me was something that was, living memories. I have photographs of, we started going to London, then we went to Manchester, and then we had the ambition to do New York, and we got huge support for that. And now I just got halfway through that. I was expecting my youngest. We're halfway through the fundraising, and I was 3 or 4 months pregnant, and I had to say go on with it because this was November and we were going to New York in March. So by the time I got to New York in March, I was 6 months pregnant with my youngest, and it was a bit of a challenge, but it was a fantastic experience. We brought in excess of 50 girls, fundraised, got grant aid, sponsorship, and it is one of the most memorable experiences I will ever have, marching down Fifth Avenue. You only see that on television. Yeah. You don't ever imagine that you were going to be part of it. It must have been
some thrill for the girls involved, 50 of them. I mean, that's with them for the rest of their life.
Absolutely.
We played in the New York City parade,
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And one of my outstanding memories was all the famous Clara people who paraded with us, and one of them being Peter Nolan. And at the very end of the parade, we were way down at the end of Fifth Avenue, and we turned off an alleyway. We were waiting for a bus, and Peter started to cry. Oh. He was so emotional, and I could identify with it. He said he never thought he would see that day.
Yeah, that was a huge thing, wasn't it? Huge. Clara Band walking in the New York City
parade.
Biggest parade in the world.
Best, probably. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, the best. Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was absolutely the pinnacle, yeah.
Tell us about the logistics of getting 50 girls plus to New York.
Money. And organisation. We had a super group of mammies, I always called them, organising everything. They did all the little bits and pieces along the way. They made me look good.
Yeah. Actually, before you go anywhere, let's hear from one of those mammies, Bhride O'Brien.
Oh, Bhride.
Well, Lloyd, my experiences with Nora are so many that it would take forever to cover all the years since 1986. My first experience was through my daughter Hazel, when Nora was putting together a group of 6-year-olds as pom-poms to front the Harp and Shamrock Band. And for the 13 years covering both the girls' time with the band, we created so many brilliant memories with Nora and, of course, the late Michael Reynolds, from local to national and international events. The icing on the cake was to America when we took part in 3 Patrick's Day parades, the biggest being in New York. The trip to New York was manifested on the ferry on a return trip from St. Patrick's Day parade in London. It was a big task and a big undertaking to make it happen, but we got there. They were also the weekends away for the All-Ireland flag Ceol competitions, the wins and the losses, but also the competing was so important. Nora saw all involved through the good and the not so good while looking after the children, the school and her family, and in that order because that is what she did. Her commitment to not only the band but all through her 41 years to Scoil Bhride as both a teacher and a principal is outstanding. Speaking on my own experience, she gave my girls good grounding for commitment, both as being members of a fantastic marching band and for their future in life. Nora, you were 1 in a million for sure. Enjoy your interview with Lloyd. Have a great night and we wish you the very best for the future. Gonairi an Bóthar a Cara.
Oh, go raibh míle maith agat, Bhride. One of my memories of Bhride was we were fundraising, and we had a big plan for fundraising set up because we had to raise about £20,000. And I remember we having a conversation one night about delegation, and she said, "Damn you, Nora," she said, "in your delegation you have me half killed." And I always remembered because she put
Poor
huge, poor Bhride, she was putting, there were so many people putting so much effort into that, and I'd come in every night with a list and I'd delegate to somebody else because I wasn't feeling that great myself because of the baby on the way, and they were all prepared, and I'd come in and, "Well, can you do this and who can do that?" And that was the secret, and it still is the secret I find at school. Right. With the team, with the girls at school, it's about involving everybody and making sure that everybody plays their role, and that people are talented. Don't underestimate what people can do, and I think that's a lot of it.
Will we ever see a return of the Harp and Shamrock Band?
Oh, not for me anyway. I think I've been there and done
Nora,
that.
you've one good year left.
One good year, yeah. Oh, unless I don the uniform myself, but I don't think
yeah, there you go. Yourself and Bhride.
Myself and Bhride.
Yeah, I'll pay for the tickets myself.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
The Harp and Shamrock Band, that was probably your one of the biggest projects, or
yeah, it was. And if I have any regret, and I had no regret up to the time, I have no regrets in life. But the year they won the All Ireland, the band won the All Ireland, I was expecting my third child, and because the All Ireland she was due the first week in September, and the competition was the last weekend in August, and I didn't want to go with the girls because I was afraid that if something happened to me, that it was too close to the time. Yeah. So I remember sitting at home and getting the phone call. We won.
Did you feel like getting into the car?
Oh, it was too late at that stage.
I said that was hard to take after putting so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because I had been at All Ireland Flags all down through the years myself, and I'd been there when the ballot groups won All Ireland, but that was huge. And it's funny, I can still remember that week before that All Ireland, knowing this sounded and looked really, really good, but having the decision made that I couldn't go, because if I did happen and the crowds, 30, 40, 50,000 people in the stall, I couldn't. I wouldn't even have, if I'd gone into early labour or anything, I couldn't have taken the chance.
So the band won anyway.
The band won without me. Brilliant. So it just goes to show.
Well, you had all the work done in before then. Anyway. Yeah. So Nora, obviously you moved from Galway, met a Kildare man. Yeah. Dave got married.
Yes.
Of course, that our GEA fans will know that Dave very well. He played GEA for Kildare.
Yeah, postponed our honeymoon because he was playing an All-Ireland or a county quarter-final.
Now, Dave, you can't be doing that.
Brought us home in the middle of it to play a second game.
Oh, God.
That's something you didn't know.
Played for Offaly footballers as well.
Yeah.
So where did you and Dave meet?
In the bank.
In the bank.
Right. Yeah. And actually, there was a connection. He would have worked in Dublin with a good friend of my brother-in-law. So there was a connection. And my first day that I walked in and met him in the bank, he just made a comment. Teddy said to say hello. And I said, how do you know Teddy? And that was that's where it started. So it took a few years for it to get off the ground.
Right.
A few.
It's like starting the Harp and Shamrock Band.
It was, yeah. It did take a while, but look, we've never looked back. We've had our ups and downs. So
yeah, like everybody, yeah.
Yeah, and we've had 4 fantastic children, Clara, John, Sive and James, and they were all gone away from us last September, October. We spent a very quiet winter at home, and then COVID came and they all arrived back. Well, with the exception of Clara, who's in Sydney, and she wasn't able to arrive. They're all doing well, and
brilliant. Actually, we're going to hear a little bit from Dave.
Oh, are you?
Yes.
Oh my goodness!
Back.
You didn't tell me this.
I pulled out all the stops here, Nora.
You sure did, Lloyd.
I know Nora is very humbled by being asked to look at her life and times in Clara as she enters her 42nd year of teaching in the girls' school. In spite of 2 very serious illnesses in the past 10 years, she still loves every day of teaching in a community which has given her so much. The award many years ago as Person of the Year from Clara Boys and Girls Club was one of the very many proud moments that she's had in Clara community. Our 2 daughters, Clara and Sive, now in Australia and Scotland, were educated in the girls' school. Nora's sister Patricia is married to Michael Minnock, the son of the late Andy and Lily Minnock. Nora's and great friend, the late Kathleen Egan, came from the neighbouring parish in Galway and was principal of the boys' school. The great Ricey Scully and his band played wonderful music at our wedding in Galway back in 1988. Finally, when Nora was applying for the principal's job in the girls' school some 30 years ago, she asked the late Brother Sylvester to pen some words which he knew would carry great weight as a reference. Brother Sylvester, after setting out Nora's suitability for the position, finished up by saying, Nora Heenan, as she was known then, is 1 in a million. Thanks, Lloyd.
And now, 1 in a million from Brother Sylvester.
Sylvester, yeah, great friend, yeah.
So we've a good bit to get through there from Dave. So actually your son James was involved in music in Clara, wasn't he?
Yeah, James is part of the Claratown band. We have 2 sons. One, they're poles apart. John loves his sport, and we realised James didn't like sport. But a number of years ago, we discovered that he loved music, and we used to hear him listening to lots and lots of different kinds of music. And I remember suggesting to him at one stage, he was actually sitting at the piano at home in Galway at my mother's house, and I said, would you like to learn music? And he said, I don't know. So he started on the piano. And then all of a sudden we discovered he was listening to Frank Sinatra and that music and the Ink Spots and lots of those. So I said, would you like to learn a brass instrument? And he said, what do you mean? Well, maybe the trumpet. So then I spoke to Mick McLaughlin, who runs Claratown Band, and they loaned me a trumpet for 6 months. And then we realised he started to take lessons from Michael Moore in Clara, or in Tullamore, and Michael and himself are great friends, and he has progressed really, really well, and he loves it. I was going to bed last night at 12 o'clock, and he was working away upstairs.
Were you proud that music came?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I would have put an awful lot of time and effort into maybe the older ones, and maybe had given up the ghost at that stage because while they like it and they were talented, it wasn't something that they wanted to pursue. And all of a sudden, when I had almost given up, number 4 decides he wants to be the musician. Yeah.
They've also meant the great Ricey Scully there, played a few tunes at your wedding.
Yeah, Ricey, with the girls, the ballad group at that stage, Lavinia, Patricia, Siobhan, Helen and Patricia, they sang at my wedding, yeah. I couldn't have asked anybody else, it'd have killed me. But they sang at our wedding, and at that stage, in Galway, I didn't know of any bands, and I mean, around here, you know, you had so many different fantastic musicians. So we asked Ricey and he did the honours. We had a great day. Great day.
Nora, Dave also mentioned you had some tough times through illness.
Yes.
Is that something you're comfortable talking about now?
I am, yeah. Look, there were episodes in my life I was very lucky to get through. I had my cancer in 2011. It just came out of the blue. I will always say I was lucky. And I think that's probably one of the things about a diagnosis like that. It is about the diagnosis, it's about the type, what they can do for you, and the treatment, and the support you get. It's about everything like that. It just hit me out of the blue, and it was a terrifying time. But I've put it behind me and recovered. And it was always my intention, once I knew it wasn't going to be fatal, that my ambition was to get back to work, and to... Because people said, will you not retire now? I wasn't ready to retire. I wasn't ready to go. I want to always go on my own terms. And then, I suppose 3 years ago, I had another most unusual situation where I had a collapse of an artery, which is extremely rare. I think the consultant I went to in James's has only seen one. The consultant in Tullamore hadn't ever seen it. He'd read about it. It was very rare, but called a coronary artery dissection. I don't know why it happened. They don't know why it happened. But when I was walking out of the hospital after it being treated for it, the surgeon said to me, or the consultant said to me, I said, could this happen again? And he said, can lightning strike twice?
Right.
So hopefully.
Because you don't seem like the most stressful person in the world.
Well, I have been told that the cancer can be caused by stress. Others say it's in your genes. I suppose I would bury maybe a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Outwardly, maybe I'll do other things just to relieve it. But yeah, I would get stressed internally at times. But
when friends said to you about retiring that time when you were ill with cancer, did you feel coming back that you had unfinished business in the school?
Yes. Yeah. I didn't want to go in that vein, and I was hoping that I would get the time to continue working and to go when I feel ready to go myself. Right. Because I think I didn't want to go when I didn't feel ready to go.
Very much on your own terms.
On my own terms, and I hope I survive to see that.
Right,
to go on my
good.
own terms. Yeah.
You're also involved in the GEA yourself. Tell us about that.
Well, it's like everything when you grow up. When you come to a small town, I grew up in a rural community. What did you do on a Sunday except go to a match? My father was interested. We followed Galway football and hurling at the time. And then when I came here, it was an interest. I was interested. And I suppose through being involved in Scor, I got involved in the GA and involved in the committee and all of that, and made some great friends and had some great years.
You're still on the committee in Tullamore, I believe.
I am. I took on the role of children's officer in Tullamore a few years ago. I was asked to do it because I suppose I do have the knowledge and the background. I did the county job for a couple of years as well, and no regrets there either. I really enjoyed doing it, met a lot of people. It's a fantastic organisation. It's, as I say, it's in every little town and village in the country. I think we take it too much for granted. I think the whole volunteer aspect of it and the amount of work that people do behind the scenes. I'm not saying I do a huge amount of work. Because I'm working at school, and I suppose at the age I am, I'm limited in what I can do energy-wise now, but it's a huge volunteer organisation, and so many people put so much time. And there's so many people in smalls and towns and villages synonymous with the GA and they're the people everybody loves to give out about.
Yeah. But it's a lifeline though, isn't it?
It's a lifeline, and it's something I will always be interested in. I always enjoy doing.
Another one of your interests was Scor.
Oh, I started in Scor when I was very young in Galway, I'd say in the first couple of years of it. And with my own family, we reached an All-Ireland in 1974, I think. Didn't win it, but left unfinished business. So when I got the opportunity to take it on here,
right.
It was great.
Tell me about that, taking that on here.
Well, I started with the children at the school, and I suppose 5 girls approached me and said, would I train them? And I did. And it did take a few years, from 1979 to 84, the centenary year here in Clara. It was a fantastic year. We won the first ballot group All-Ireland at underage in Cork in City Hall. It was a fantastic experience, right. Yeah. I did train a second group at that age, and they also reached the All-Ireland, didn't win it. And then 10 years ago again, or 12 years ago, about 10 or 11 years ago now, I was approached again by the Scanlons and Colette and Maura, and asked me would I go back and do it. And I said, will I? And I'm so glad I did, because it was just a second chance, second bite of the cherry. We had some fantastic wins.
Tell us about some of those wins.
Oh, I just remember them so much. But I was with people who really loved doing it. It's like everything, they loved doing it, and they were prepared to put up with the hardship that it required to achieve the standard. I remember some of the performances. Particularly remember the year they sang Easy and Slow in Killarney in the INEC. It just stands out in my mind as being one of the most remarkable performances of any group. Right. It was just so beautiful, and they were prepared to put in the work, and it's about being, putting in the work, and they made it seem so easy when they're performing, but you just I knew the work that had gone on in the background. It's like you watch a hurler, I'll refer to Joe Canning in Galway when he turns and just strikes and it floats over the bar. That didn't just happen. That required hours and hours and hours. And we spent hours. The girls, the ballot groups, they spent hours. All the ballot groups spent hours and hours and hours. Just
and some of those ballot groups then got their just rewards, and they won.
Yes.
Some All-Irelands.
Yeah, a number of All-Irelands, and the homecomings, and the the fun, and there was some great experiences there. I was so lucky, privileged. So many words I'd use to describe the opportunities I've had to be involved with so many great people.
Right. Talk to me about some of the preparations of a band. How do you train a band to that level?
Well, first of all, you have to have the raw material, and the raw material was there. You have beautiful voices, good voices, people who knew what they wanted to achieve, and as I said, were willing to, you lay down the basics, you pick what you want to you choose what you want to sing. They'd come back with all sorts of suggested songs, and eventually you'd arrive on one or two that you'd like to do. And then it just slowly builds. You'd start with the basics of a basic melody, and then when that's in place, you'd add on something else, and then add on another layer. The performances were never exactly the same. We always added something, or changed something, or made a tweak of a difference, or I'd be listening to them on the stage and I'd say, I don't like that bit now. And then the next night it might be gone and we'd have something else put in there instead.
I was looking at it on YouTube actually myself today, and the focus on stage and the professionalism.
Yeah. Oh, they were remarkable, I have to say, and they loved what they did. And they were the most recent group, as I'd say, the twins and Colette and Maura and Aisling. They were so focused and they put such work into it.
Let's hear from one of those twins, John Scanlon.
Lloyd has asked me to say something about our experiences during the years of the Clara Ballot Group. 2 minutes seems a little short, to be honest with you, to sum up Nora's contribution to the Clara Ballot Group and to Scor in general in Clara, and indeed to Clara. I just want to say on behalf of the Clara Ballot Group, Nora has been an exemplary trainer. She has always worked very hard and always dedicated herself to the cause. Even when she was busy and she had her own personal things going on, Nora always found time for us. And the five of us are very grateful for that. And we were very grateful for her hard work. We're very grateful for her input. I'd just like to say that maybe the course isn't run yet. I know Nora will laugh at that. With all our experiences, and this COVID-19 just makes us appreciate more what we did have. Certainly your very strong and dedicated contribution, and hope that we can get together again and maybe, who knows, have another crack at it. It'll be a very different competition, but we'll have another crack at it. Summing up Nora takes more than 2 minutes. I'd just like to wish you all the best and take care. And thank you, Lloyd, for asking me to do this.
Hello. There it is, Nora. It's laid out for you now.
It's all laid out. Oh, I know. John is great for throwing down a challenge.
Is a challenge accepted, Nora?
I'm not disclosing anything. I'm pleading the fifth on that one.
Wouldn't it be great, though? A lot of work.
Yeah, it's something I will always enjoy. And
do you think the band themselves have it in them to do it again?
Oh, they definitely have it in them to do it again. But it's probably not them. Things change. Views change out there about how things should be and what should happen and who should win maybe and who shouldn't win. And so it's not always within your own power, a lot of these things, I think the years they won, they were their years. Sometimes it's not a good idea to go back, but at the same time, the fun and the enjoyment of preparing for it is very hard to not to have to look forward to, because we all really enjoyed it. We had some great fun, some great laughs.
So John Scanlon, she didn't say no. Maybe twist her arm a bit more. We also had Siobhan Kelly sent me in a message that she remembered their trips down to Mount Bellew years ago. Right, said they were like superstars
going down there. They were being invited all over the place to sing, the girls, because they had won an All-Ireland score. They were like superstars, and they were brought here, there and everywhere.
She also added obviously winning the 1984 All-Ireland on the GES centenary year was so special, and playing Up for the Match.
That's right. I was actually thinking of that yesterday.
What year was that? That was 84 as well, wasn't it?
Oh, it was 84. It was in Thurles, you see. But the experience of walking out onto the stage and performing.
I actually remember playing Up for the Match myself years ago with the church mates. Just something in common with Siobhan, but we rocked up a version of the Offaly Rover.
Oh.
Now, there was a few people not too impressed about
not too.
But we did a rock version of it anyway. We got through it.
I remember now that you say it. I do remember that.
I think it was Offaly in Kilkenny, I think. But,
I had some fabulous experiences with the young group as well. I always called them the young group, although I find it hard to believe that when I was training them first, I thought I was so much older than them. But in fact, there wasn't a very big age gap at all, because I was only 20 then, 21 when I started with them first. So that gap as you get older, the gap seems much narrower.
Tell me about recording the Peace Carol with Foremost.
That's right, yeah.
What was that about?
That was lovely. Andy O'Callaghan was the producer there. Beautiful piece. It was a lovely number, and Foremost, the lads. If I start naming now, I'll miss a name someplace along the way.
Better off mentioned.
But they asked the girls to do backing track that year. Maybe a year or two after they won the All Ireland, and we went down to Green Hill Studios in Headford in Galway. Right. And Andy O'Callaghan was the producer. It was a great experience, and I remember him building. It was
one of the best studios around back then.
Yeah, and Andy was a fantastic producer. And I remember him building the layers and adding all the different lines, and all the different two girls sing that now. And then he'd record it, and then he'd add something else.
It was such an art, wasn't it?
Such an art that he could hear it, and it turned out. I remember listening to it when it was almost finished, and the sound was great. The sound was beautiful.
What about the Tops of the Town?
Oh, I was listening to Rafina there a few weeks ago. That was as I said already, Clara has offered so much. I mean, All Ireland Scor, All Ireland Tops, national finals of Tops, being involved in those, having the opportunity to get involved and to have such talent, all homegrown. The Rex family, they made that happen. So many people came with them, but if it weren't for Richie, Rafina, Alan, Declan, Derek, their talent made all this happen and put Clara on a national stage. You just couldn't say enough about. And everybody, the team, they gathered around them, done costumes and design and everything. It was such fun.
Yeah.
It was one big family, and we put so much time and effort, and everybody loved it.
Did you enjoy that, Nora? The musicals and the Tops?
I think I only did one or two musicals, and then I remember starting doing Tops, and Tops was exhilarating, is the word. The enjoyment, and you know yourself.
Yeah.
I remember some of the scenes. I was in a scene on stage with John Lowe and Richie in a comedy scene.
John was telling me he was coming over Rocket one time, that you were knocking on the door of the Rocket when he didn't come out.
I don't know what he was, but we had some great experience on stage, and then I suppose I was involved in the drama group as well with John, but. Definitely Tops of the Town, there was something just unique about it. But I would say, unfortunately, if it had been left to the smaller towns, it would have possibly survived. When the big companies got involved and started pumping in the money, it just took away that, the local edge, and people just couldn't compete.
Yeah. It's like that with everything now, isn't it?
It is.
If something starts off nice and rural, nice community, and a big company comes in, then
it does raise the standard, and it certainly raised the standard for a lot of the groups, but it just left it maybe almost out of reach. That was the unfortunate thing. But they were fantastic days, and I mean the legacy is Clara Musical Society, and it's a national, it's as I say, nationally known and national success now.
So you've involved yourself so much in Clara over the 42 years. I know you live in Tullamore, but Clara was really home from home, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. I think my decision to live in Tullamore was, I always said that I needed to be able to separate it, to just get a break. Other than that, I don't know why I made the decision. I've never regretted making the decision, because I've been able to keep both the two very separate, but at the same time, Clara has always felt like home. I feel I could move back and live here in the morning and feel very comfortable. Any place here in town, I feel.
So you're very popular in two towns in Offaly.
Yeah.
The Galway woman, huh?
Yeah. Well, considering that Galway wouldn't have been number one on the Offaly's favourites list over the years, but I've made it mine anyway.
Nora, I got a lot of messages in for this podcast. Obviously, too many that I can't read out. We need to be here for a week, which is just goes to show you how popular you are. Well, we have one from the Nicola McKeown from the Parents Association.
Nora has always proved to be a great support for the Parents Association and has always given us time and opportunity to be involved in events held in the school. She's very approachable, and while we may not always agree, you will always get the opportunity to discuss. In her time as principal, she's brought about lots of opportunity for the pupils in school to develop and improve, not least the most recent addition to the school, which will ensure opportunities for the girls of Clara for a long time to come. As with all school principals this year, Nora's faced a very daunting task of ensuring the safety of staff and pupils in very uncertain times. And she's done it with great applaud from the Parents Association. It's been a fantastic transition back to school for all the kids. We wish her all the best into the future.
So that's Nicola McKeown.
Thanks, Nicola.
So as you said before, it's so important that parents are on board as well with all this stuff, isn't it?
The one thing parents have, over the years would ask me about what I think about what they should do or what the children should do or what school they should go to or where they should be. One of the things I would have learned, it stayed with me from my college days. All statistics show that the biggest influence in any child's life is the support they get from their parents. And I would say that to every parent. I mean, schools are important, so many things are important, but it's the support a parent offers their child that's what makes it or breaks it.
Nora, you ready for the quick fire round?
Oh my goodness. I didn't do any
We'll go
preparation
easy
for this.
Are you ready for this, though?
Go on.
Okay. What actress would play you in a film?
Oh, I'd say Meryl Streep.
Galway or Offaly?
I would have to say Offaly now.
First thing you'd buy if you won the lotto?
Maybe a new car.
Gay Byrne or Ryan Tubridy?
I have no preference.
Favourite country visited?
South America.
First album you ever bought?
The Bay City Rollers.
Best thing about Clara?
Everything.
What actor would play Dave in a movie?
Oh, I'm afraid I don't want to commit myself to that one. Maybe I could say Paul Newman.
Right, very good. And for the last question, we actually have a question, £1 million question from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? So Nora, a number 1 followed by 100 zeros is known by what name? Is it A, Google, B, Megatron, C, Gigabit, or D, Nanomote?
I have never
for £1 million
heard that.
This is.
You have £1 million to give me?
We'll ask Moat Business College. So number 1 followed by 100 zeros is known by what name?
Yeah.
Google, Megatron, Gigabit, or Nanomote?
Well, I've heard of Gigabit, Megatron, Google. The only one I've never heard of is Nanomote, so that could possibly be that, but I actually have to plead total ignorance on that answer.
Right. Is the final answer?
Final answer.
You're saying Nanomote?
Nanomote, yeah.
It's wrong. It's the first one.
It's the first one, the Google. Okay, I don't profess to know everything.
Nora, any advice for the younger generation growing up right now?
Try and enjoy what you're doing. Choose something in your career that you're going to enjoy, in your life you're going to enjoy. It's not always possible. Just work every day, take it as it comes, and that you will have ups and downs. We all do. But by putting in that little extra bit, you will be rewarded.
After 42 years in the school, Nora, is there any plans to relax and retire?
Yes, sometime in the future.
Right. Okay.
No immediate plan. I'm getting to the stage where I think I would like to wake up in the morning. I think particularly maybe with COVID now. I have a daughter in Australia, a daughter in Edinburgh, and it would be nice to be able to pop in and go to see them for a weekend without having to restrict my movements and all of that. But I mean, immediately, no immediate decision to leave. But I probably getting to the stage now where I've done a lot. I think this year has been a particular challenge. I've still enjoyed it. It's been very tiring. A great team in the school from start to finish. Everybody has just given me so much support. And as I said, people in the town have done the exact same thing. So when I go, I want to go feeling I'm happy to do it. And until I'm ready to do that, I'm not going to do it.
Very good.
So I'll be there I won't say for a while yet, but I'll be there another little while.
Nora, it's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you for your 42 years service to Clara and all you've been involved with. You've been a very positive influence to so many in the town. I wish you best of luck in the future.
Thanks, Lloyd. I have really enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
Calculators and TV. Is the school around the corner just the same?
Start your journey and further your education with Moat Business College. Not sure what direction to take? Need more time before going on to higher education or a career change? With up to 20 QQI Level 5 and 6 courses to choose from, we've got the course for you. Find out more and apply now at moatbusinesscollege.com.
You just listened to What's the Story with Lloyd Bracken. Check out all our social channels for info on new episodes. Oh, and thanks for listening. On the Town.